The Great Hall of Nexus Prime was the largest structure in the known galaxy. Its walls stretched so high that clouds formed near the ceiling. Thousands of alien species had gathered here for 10,000 years to decide the fate of worlds. Today, they had gathered to decide the fate of Earth. Captain Sarah Chen stood alone on the small platform reserved for species under judgment. She wore her black military uniform with pride. Her dark hair was pulled back tight, and her eyes showed no fear. Around her, the representatives of 47 alien species watched from their floating platforms. Some had scales, some had tentacles, some were made of pure energy. All of them looked at her with the same expression: contempt. The High Arbiter Velthorax floated down from the highest platform. He was a being made of living crystal, and light bent around him in strange ways. When he spoke, his voice filled every corner of the massive hall. Humanity, he said the word, like it was something dirty. You have been part of the galactic community for 100 years. In that time, you have spread like a disease. You fight among yourselves. You consume resources without thought. You breed without control. You are chaos given form. Sarah said nothing. She had been ordered to listen, to be diplomatic, to find a peaceful solution. But she could feel the hatred in this room. These aliens had already made their decision long before she arrived. The Galactic Council has studied your species carefully, Velthorax continued. We have determined that humanity is a Class 7 threat species. You are dangerous to the stability of the galaxy. You cannot be allowed to continue as you are. Murmurs of agreement rippled through the hall. Sarah noticed that some species did not join in. A few looked uncomfortable. But none of them spoke up. None of them would risk the Council's anger to defend humanity. You have 72 hours to comply with the following demands, Velthorax announced. A holographic display appeared in the center of the hall, showing Earth and its colonies. First, you will surrender your entire military fleet. Every ship, every weapon. No exceptions. Sarah's jaw tightened, but she remained silent. Second, you will abandon all colonies outside your home system. Your species will be restricted to Earth and Earth alone. The display showed dozens of human colonies disappearing one by one. Billions of people. Gone. Third, and most important, you will submit your entire population to genetic recalibration. Now Sarah spoke. What exactly does genetic recalibration mean? Velthorax's crystal form pulsed with cold light. Your species is flawed. Your aggression, your ambition, your unpredictable nature. These traits make you dangerous. Our scientists will modify your genetic code to remove these flaws. You will become peaceful, obedient, safe. You want to change what we are, Sarah said. You want to destroy everything that makes us human. We want to save the galaxy from your kind, Velthorax replied. You should be grateful. Lesser species have simply been erased. Sarah looked around the hall. Thousands of alien eyes stared back at her. Some with hatred, some with fear, some with twisted amusement. They truly believed they were superior. They truly believed humanity was nothing more than a problem to be solved. And if we refuse? Sarah asked. Velthorax laughed. The sound was like glass breaking. Then you will face the combined might of 47 species. Your little fleet will be destroyed. Your colonies will burn. Your homeworld will be sterilized. You will be remembered as another failed experiment in evolution. Sarah thought about Earth. She thought about the billions of people going about their lives, unaware that their existence hung by a thread. She thought about her own family, her mother in Beijing, her brother on the Mars colony, her niece who had just learned to walk. She thought about what humanity had survived. The ice ages, the plagues, the wars, the near-extinction events that should have wiped them out a dozen times over. And yet, humans were still here, still fighting, still reaching for the stars. You mistake our patience for weakness, Sarah said. Her voice was calm and steady. You see our attempts at diplomacy as fear. You think because we haven't destroyed you? We can't. The hall went silent. Even Velthorax seemed surprised by her tone. Humanity came to the stars hoping to find friends, Sarah continued. We came with open hands. We traded. We shared. We asked for nothing but a place among you, and you responded with threats, with contempt, with demands that we surrender our very souls. She looked directly at the High Arbiter. I will return to Earth. I will deliver your ultimatum. But I want you to understand something, Arbiter. Humanity has faced extinction before. We have looked into the void and refused to blink. We are not cattle to be modified. We are not children to be disciplined. We are humanity. And if you push us, you will learn why the universe should fear our kind. Velthorax's crystal form flickered with anger. Such arrogance from such a primitive species. You have 72 hours, human. Use them to pray to whatever gods you believe in. Long to. Mainam. Sarah turned and walked toward the exit. Behind her, the council erupted in mocking laughter. They had crushed 100 species. They had ruled the galaxy for millennia. What could one small planet do against such power? As Sarah boarded her shuttle, she sent a single, encrypted message to Earth. One word that would change everything. Prometheus. Back on Earth, Fleet Admiral Marcus Webb received the message in his command center. He was an old man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had served humanity for 40 years, hoping his entire life that this moment would never come. He had worked for peace. He had believed in diplomacy. He had trusted that the galaxy could learn to accept humanity. Now, he knew the truth. The galaxy would never accept them. The galaxy wanted them dead or enslaved. There was no middle ground. Admiral Webb opened a secure channel to every military installation in human space. His voice was heavy with sorrow, but underneath that sorrow was something else. Something hard. Something dangerous. This is Fleet Admiral Webb, authentication code Omega-77. Activate protocol Prometheus. All ships to war stations. All colonies to Defense Condition 1. The Council has made their choice. Now we make ours. Across human space, lights went red. Soldiers who had trained their entire lives for a war they hoped would never come finally understood that hope was over. Scientists who had worked in secret for decades unsealed weapons that should never have been built. Ships that officially did not exist powered up their engines and prepared to fly. Humanity was done talking. The galaxy would learn what that meant. Kepler 442b was supposed to be paradise. The planet had been humanity's first successful colony outside the solar system. It had clean air, fresh water, and soil so rich that crops grew twice as fast as they did on Earth. Farmers from every nation had come here to build a new life. They had built small towns with white houses and green fields. Children played in meadows under an orange sun. It was peaceful. It was beautiful. It was home to 2.3 million people who had never held a weapon in their lives. Maria Santos was teaching her class when the sky turned dark. She was a young teacher, only 26 years old. Her students were learning about Earth history when one of them pointed at the window and screamed. 3 massive ships hung in the sky like dark mountains. They were Dominion warships, the most powerful vessels in the Council's fleet. Each one was larger than a city. They had appeared without warning, without any message, without any chance for the people below to understand what was happening. Maria grabbed as many children as she could and ran for the basement shelter. She could hear the other teachers doing the same. Parents came running from the fields. The emergency sirens finally started screaming, but it was already too late. The first beam of light hit the capital city. One moment, 500,000 people were alive. The next moment, there was nothing but glass and ash. The beam moved across the planet's surface like a finger drawing a line of death. Towns vanished. Forests burned. Rivers boiled into steam. Maria held her students close in the darkness of the basement. She told them it would be okay. She told them help was coming. She told them to be brave. The last thing she heard was the sound of thunder above her head. Then there was only light. Then there was nothing at all. The entire attack lasted 4 minutes. When it was over, Kepler 442b was silent. The farms were gone. The towns were gone. The 2.3 million men, women, and children who had called this planet home were gone. Only burned Earth remained. Fleet Admiral Marcus Webb received the news aboard the Mars Command Station. A young officer handed him the report with shaking hands. Webb read it once. Then he read it again. The words did not change. "Confirmed casualties?" he asked. His voice was barely a whisper. "All of them, sir." The officer replied. "No survivors. The Council is calling it a demonstration. They say this is what will happen to Earth if we don't surrender." Webb put down the report. Around him, his command staff stood in shocked silence. Some had family on Kepler 442b. Some had friends. All of them had just watched 2.3 million of their people die, for no reason except to make a point. "Get me Captain Chen," Webb ordered. Sarah Chen appeared on the view screen moments later. She was already aboard her ship, the UES Retribution. Behind her, Webb could see her crew working at their stations. They had heard the news too. Their faces were pale with rage. "Admiral," Sarah said, "I just received the report. What are your orders?" Webb looked at her for a long moment. He thought about his career. 40 years of service. 40 years of believing that peace was possible. 40 years of holding back, of being patient, of trusting that diplomacy would work. And now, 2.3 million dead. Children burned alive because an alien council wanted to prove a point. "The council crossed the line," Webb said slowly. "They killed civilians, farmers, children. They did it to scare us. They think we will break." He paused. "They are wrong." He reached into his desk and pulled out a sealed folder. It was marked with a single word: Omega. Every officer in the fleet knew about this folder. None of them had ever seen it opened. "Directive Omega," Webb announced. "Total unrestricted warfare authorization. Every weapon we have. Every ship we have. Every soldier we have. No limits. No mercy. No negotiation." Sarah's eyes widened slightly, but she nodded. "Understood, Admiral. When do we begin?" "Immediately. The Black Fleet is already moving to the rally point. You will lead the assault on Nexus Prime." "The Council's homeworld?" Sarah asked. "That's in the heart of their territory. We'll be surrounded by enemy forces." "Yes," Webb agreed. "But that's exactly where we need to strike. We're not fighting to survive anymore, Captain. We're fighting to send a message. Every species in the galaxy needs to understand what happens when you touch humanity." Sarah straightened her shoulders. "I understand, Admiral. What about the rules of engagement?" Webb's face hardened. "There are no rules anymore. They killed our children. They laughed while our people burned. The Galactic Council wanted to show us what they're capable of. Now we show them what we're capable of." He leaned forward, his eyes burning with cold fire. "The Council has 47 species. They have thousands of ships. They have ruled the galaxy for 10,000 years. They think they know what war is." He shook his head slowly. "They have no idea. None of them have ever faced humanity when we have nothing left to lose." Sarah nodded. "I'll make them understand, Admiral. I promise you that." "One more thing, Captain," Webb said. "The weapons we're about to use, the things we're about to do. History may not forgive us. Are you prepared for that? Are you prepared for that?" Sarah thought about Kepler 442b. She thought about the children who would never grow up. She thought about the families who would never see another sunrise. She thought about what the Council had done, and what they would do again if humanity showed any weakness. History can judge us later, she said. Right now, I'm going to make sure humanity has a future to be judged in. Webb nodded. Good luck, Captain. Give them hell. The view screen went dark. Webb turned to face his command staff. Every face in the room showed the same expression. Grief. Rage. Determination. Send the order to all fleet commanders, Webb said. Operation Thunder begins in 6 hours. Tell them to prepare for the largest military operation in human history. Across human space, ships began to move. The hidden bases that had been built in secret for exactly this moment opened their doors. Weapons that had been banned by galactic law powered up for the first time. Soldiers who had trained for decades finally received the orders they had been waiting for. The Galactic Council had wanted to teach humanity a lesson. They had wanted to show the primitive apes their place in the universe. They had killed 2.3 million innocent people to prove a point. Now humanity was going to prove a point of their own. The galaxy had no idea what was coming. They had poked a sleeping giant. They had killed its children. And now that giant was awake. Now that giant was angry. Now that giant was coming for them, and nothing in the universe was going to stop it. The clock was ticking. In 6 hours, the war to end all wars would begin, and the galaxy would burn. The Nexus system was the heart of galactic civilization. 12 planets orbited a golden sun, and each planet was covered with cities that had stood for thousands of years. Trillions of beings lived here. The Galactic Council met here. The laws that governed 100,000 worlds were written here. This was the center of everything, and it was completely unprepared for what was about to happen. High Arbiter Velthorax stood in his private chamber, watching reports from Kepler 442b with satisfaction. The demonstration had gone perfectly. The primitive humans were surely terrified now. They would crawl back to the Council, begging for mercy. They would accept genetic recalibration. They would become obedient servants, like every other species that had dared to challenge galactic authority. The humans have not responded to our ultimatum, his assistant reported. They have gone silent on all channels. Velthorax's crystal form pulsed with amusement. They are probably fighting among themselves, deciding which leaders to sacrifice, preparing their surrender. Humans are predictable in their fear. Should we prepare additional forces, just in case? Additional forces? Velthorax laughed. For what? The humans have a few hundred ships. We have thousands. Their weapons are primitive. Their technology is a joke. The only threat they pose is to themselves. The assistant nodded and left. Velthorax returned to his meditation. In a few hours, humanity would surrender. In a few weeks, they would be modified. In a few years, they would be forgotten. Just another species that had learned its place. He had no idea that death was already on its way. Captain Sarah Chen sat in the command chair of the UES Retribution as it dropped out of hyperspace at the edge of the Nexus system. The jump had been long and silent. Her crew had spent the hours checking their weapons, writing letters to loved ones, and preparing for what they all knew might be their final mission. Behind the Retribution, the darkness of space began to fill with ships. First came the carriers, massive vessels that held thousands of fighter craft. Then came the destroyers, sleek and deadly, their weapons already charging. Then came the cruisers, the battleships, the heavy assault platforms. And finally, emerging from the shadows like ghosts, came the Black Fleet. 200 ships that officially did not exist. Ships built in hidden shipyards on asteroids and moons. Ships armed with weapons that the galaxy had banned 10,000 years ago. Ships crewed by soldiers who had volunteered, knowing they might never see their families again. Sarah watched them take formation around her. This was the largest human fleet ever assembled. This was everything humanity had. Every secret, every weapon, every last desperate hope. Admiral Webb is on the line, her communications officer reported. Put him through. Webb's face appeared on the view screen. He looked tired, but his eyes were sharp. Captain Chen, you are now in command of Operation Thunder. The Council will detect your fleet within minutes. Once they do, there's no turning back. I understand, Admiral. The Council thinks this is a negotiation, Webb said. They think we're here to talk. To beg. To surrender. Show them how wrong they are. Sarah nodded. It will be done. And Captain, come home when it's over. That's an order. The view screen went dark. Sarah turned to face her crew. Every station was manned. Every system was ready. Every person on this ship knew what they were about to do. Open a channel, Sarah ordered. All frequencies. I want every being in this system to hear this. The communication officer nodded. Channel open, Captain. Sarah stood. She thought about Kepler 442b. She thought about the 2.3 million dead. She thought about Maria Santos and her students, burned alive in their classroom. She thought about every human who had ever been mocked, threatened, or killed by aliens who thought they were superior. Then she spoke. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth Ship Retribution to the Galactic Council and all species present in the Nexus system. You know why we are here. On Nexus Prime, alarms began to scream. Officers stared at their sensors in disbelief. The human fleet was massive, far larger than their intelligence had suggested, and it was moving directly toward the heart of the system. 72 hours ago, you gave humanity an ultimatum, Sarah continued. You demanded we surrender our ships. You demanded we abandon our colonies. You demanded we change our very nature to please you. Velthorax burst into the command center, his crystal form flickering with confusion. What is happening? Where did they get so many ships? 48 hours ago, when we did not immediately bow to your demands, you murdered 2.3 million of our people. Civilians, farmers, children. You called it a demonstration. You thought it would break us. You thought it would make us afraid. The Council's defense fleet began to mobilize. Thousands of ships, from dozens of species, scrambled to intercept the human armada. It should have been enough. It should have been more than enough. You were wrong. Sarah gestured to her weapons officer. Deploy the harvesters. From every ship in the human fleet, small pods launched into space. Thousands of them. Tens of thousands. They spread out like a swarm of metal insects, moving toward the Council fleet, with terrible purpose. The Council ships opened fire, but the harvesters were too small, too fast, too many. They slipped through shields like they weren't there. They attached to hulls and began to eat through metal. They found power systems and shut them down. They found weapons and disabled them. They found life support and turned it off. Ship after ship went dark. Vessels that had conquered star systems for millennia became silent tombs in seconds. The Council fleet, the most powerful military force in the galaxy, was being dismantled by machines the size of basketballs. What are those things? Velthorax screamed. Why can't we stop them? No one had an answer. The harvesters were something new, something humans had built in secret, specifically for this moment. The galaxy had banned artificial intelligence warfare 10,000 years ago. Humans had never signed that treaty. Sarah watched the Council fleet die. She felt nothing. No satisfaction. No joy. Only cold determination. All ships, advance, she ordered. Target Nexus Prime. It's time to end this. The human fleet moved forward through the debris of the Council armada. Behind them, thousands of alien ships drifted lifeless in space. Ahead, the most powerful world in the galaxy waited in terror. The silence before the storm was over. The storm had arrived, and it was angry. The battle for the Nexus system would be studied for thousands of years. Military historians from every species would analyze every moment, trying to understand how the mighty Galactic Council fell so quickly. They would look at the tactics. They would examine the weapons. They would count the ships and the casualties and the strategic decisions, but they would never truly understand what happened that day. Because what happened was not just a battle. It was a reckoning. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the Retribution, watching the chaos unfold on her tactical display. The Council's outer defense fleet had been neutralized in the first 2 minutes. The harvesters had done their work perfectly. Thousands of enemy ships drifted dead in space, their crews desperately trying to restore power that would never come back. Second wave incoming, her tactical officer reported. 3,000 ships from the inner system. They're trying to form a defensive line around Nexus Prime. Sarah nodded calmly. All carriers, launch fighters, destroyer groups Alpha through Gamma, move to intercept. Black Fleet units, hold position until I give the order. The human fleet moved like a single organism. Every ship knew its role. Every captain knew the plan. They had trained for this moment for decades, hoping it would never come, preparing for it anyway. Back on Mars, Fleet Admiral Webb watched the battle through a direct neural link to the Retribution. He could see everything Sarah saw. He could feel the ship shake as weapons fired. He could hear the controlled chaos of orders being given and confirmed. "Admiral," his aide said quietly, "the Council is requesting communication. Ignore it." "Sir, they're offering a ceasefire, full withdrawal of their ultimatum, reparations for Kepler 442b. Webb turned to face his aide. His eyes were empty of everything except cold determination. "They're offering a ceasefire because they're losing. 2 hours ago, they were planning to exterminate our species. Now they want to talk." He shook his head. "No. We tried talking. We spent 100 years talking. They answered our words with the deaths of 2.3 million innocent people. There is nothing left to talk about." He turned back to the display. "Captain Chen, you have authorization to proceed with the final phase." Chen, 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 Chen. Sarah received the message and felt its weight settle on her shoulders. This was the moment. The point of no return. Everything that came next would change the galaxy forever. "The Council's second fleet is breaking formation," her tactical officer reported. "They're in full retreat. They can't match our firepower." Sarah looked at the tactical display. The Council's ships were running. The mighty armada that had terrorized the galaxy for 10,000 years was fleeing from a species they had dismissed as primitive apes. It would have been satisfying if 2.3 million people hadn't died for this moment. "Signal from High Arbiter Velthorax," her communications officer said. "He's requesting to speak with you directly." Sarah considered for a moment. "Put him through." Velthorax's crystal form appeared on the view screen. He no longer looked arrogant. He looked terrified. His crystalline body was flickering rapidly, a sign of extreme stress in his species. "Captain Chen," he said, his voice shaking. "This has gone far enough. We can negotiate. We can find a peaceful solution. The Council is prepared to offer. The Council offered us genocide." Sarah interrupted. "The Council murdered our children. The Council laughed while our people burned. There is no negotiation. Then what do you want?" Velthorax demanded. "Revenge. You've destroyed our fleet. You've proven your strength. What more can you possibly want?" Sarah leaned forward. "I want you to understand something, Arbiter. We didn't come here for revenge. Revenge is emotional. Revenge is temporary. What we came here for is far more important. Then tell me, what is it?" "A lesson," Sarah said simply. "Every species in this galaxy needs to learn what happens when you threaten humanity, when you kill our people, when you try to destroy what we are. They need to understand that there is no distance far enough, no defense strong enough, no force powerful enough to protect them from our response." The tactical display showed the human fleet now surrounding Nexus Prime. The planet's orbital defenses were still active, but they were designed to stop invasion forces, not the surgical strikes humanity was about to deliver. "In the next few minutes," Sarah continued, "the Galactic Council will cease to exist. Not the species, not the civilians, just the Council. every politician who voted for our extermination, every military commander who planned our destruction, every leader who laughed at the death of our children. They will all be gone. 1777, 1777. Velthorax's form flickered wildly. You can't do this. The council is protected by what? Sarah asked. Your treaties? Your laws? Your armies? She shook her head. The galaxy will learn today that all of those things are worthless against a species with nothing left to lose. You took everything from us when you burned Kepler 442b. Our hope for peace, our trust in diplomacy, our belief that the galaxy could accept us. She stood, her eyes burning with controlled fury. All that's left now is the lesson. And classes start in exactly 7 minutes. The view screen went dark. Sarah turned to her weapons officer. Prepare the conscience. Target all council leadership across the system. Politicians, military commanders, everyone who had authority over the attack on our colony. Captain, the weapons officer said hesitantly, the conscience will affect every target simultaneously. There's no way to stop it once it's activated. I know. This will kill thousands of people in seconds. Sarah closed her eyes. She thought about what she was about to do. She thought about the lives she was about to end. She thought about whether she could live with this decision for the rest of her life. Then she thought about Maria Santos and her students. She thought about the farmers who just wanted to grow crops in peace. She thought about 2.3 million people who had done nothing wrong, except be human. They killed our children, Sarah said quietly. They burned our world. They did it without warning, without mercy, without regret. And if we don't respond with overwhelming force, they will do it again. To Earth, to every human colony, to every future our species might have. She opened her eyes. This is not revenge. This is survival. Fire when ready. The weapons officer nodded. Conscience is locked on target. All systems ready. Sarah took a deep breath. This was it. The moment that would define humanity forever. Fire. A pulse of light erupted from the Black Fleet's flagship. It was beautiful and terrible at the same time. The light split into thousands of beams, each one targeting a specific person across the system. Council members in their chambers, admirals on their ships, politicians in their offices, each one identified by a network of human spy satellites that had been watching for decades. The beams reached their targets in exactly 4.7 seconds. And then, the Galactic Council was no more. In the Great Hall of Nexus Prime, where Captain Sarah Chen had stood alone under judgment, Velthorax and every other representative simply stopped existing. One moment, they were there. The next moment, they were scattered atoms. Across the system, the same thing happened to every leader who had supported humanity's extermination. Clean. Precise. Absolute. The battle was over. It had lasted exactly 7 minutes from start to finish, and the galaxy would never be the same. The silence after the battle was the loudest thing Captain Sarah Chen had ever heard. She stood on the bridge of the Retribution, staring out at the stars, surrounded by the debris of what had once been the most powerful military force in the galaxy. Her crew moved quietly around her, speaking in whispers, still not fully understanding what they had done. All council leadership targets confirmed eliminated, her tactical officer reported softly. No civilian casualties detected. The Conscience performed exactly as designed. Sarah nodded, but said nothing. She had just killed thousands of beings. They had been enemies. They had ordered genocide against her people. They had deserved what happened to them. But that didn't make it easier. That didn't make her feel like a hero. She felt tired. She felt empty. She felt like something inside her had died along with the council. Captain, her communications officer said, we're receiving transmissions from across the galaxy. Thousands of them. Every species is trying to reach us. What are they saying? The officer looked at her display, scrolling through message after message. Most of them are surrendering, pledging peace, promising to never threaten humanity again. Some are asking for protection. Some are just terrified. Sarah let out a long breath. Tell them to wait. Admiral Webb will address them shortly. Back on Mars, Fleet Admiral Marcus Webb prepared for the most important speech in human history. His aides had written something formal, full of diplomatic language and careful phrases. He had thrown it away. What needed to be said now required truth, not politics. He stepped up to the broadcast station. Every screen in the galaxy was tuned to this channel. Trillions of beings were watching, waiting, wondering what humanity would do next. My name is Marcus Webb, he began. I am the Fleet Admiral of Earth's United Defense Force. I speak now on behalf of all humanity. He paused, letting his words travel across the stars. 72 hours ago, the Galactic Council gave humanity an ultimatum. Surrender. Submit to genetic modification. Cease to be what we are. We refused. On thousands of worlds, aliens watched in silence. Many of them had celebrated when the ultimatum was announced. Many of them had laughed at the primitive humans. None of them were laughing now. 48 hours ago, in response to our refusal, the Council murdered 2.3 million of our people on Kepler 442b. Farmers, teachers, children. They called it a demonstration. They thought it would break us. They were wrong. Webb's voice hardened. Today, humanity responded, the Galactic Council no longer exists. Every leader who voted for our extermination, every military commander who planned our destruction, every politician who laughed at the deaths of our children, they are gone. We did not destroy their species. We did not harm their civilians. We were precise. We were surgical. We were merciful compared to what they did to us. He leaned forward, his eyes burning into the camera. Let me be clear about what happened today. Humanity did not start this war. We came to the stars, hoping for friendship. We wanted trade. We wanted cooperation. We wanted to learn from the galaxy and share what we had learned. For 100 years, we tried to be good neighbors. And the galaxy responded by planning our genocide. Across the former council space, beings of every species listened in shock. Some felt shame. Some felt fear. Some felt nothing but hatred. But all of them understood that the universe had changed forever. The old order is dead, Webb continued. The council that ruled through fear and violence is gone. What happens next is up to you. Every species in this galaxy now has a choice to make. He held up his hand. You can choose peace. Any species that wishes to live alongside humanity as equals, as partners, as friends, will receive exactly that. We will share our technology. We will open our borders. We will work together to build something better than what the Council created. His hand closed into a fist. Or you can choose war. Any species that raises a weapon against our people, that threatens our colonies, that ever again attempts to harm humanity, will share the Council's fate. We will not wait for you to strike first. We will not negotiate while you build your forces. We will not give you a second chance. You will simply cease to exist. The message was clear. The threat was absolute. And everyone watching knew that humanity had the power to back it up. This is not who we wanted to be, Webb said, his voice softening slightly. We did not come to the stars dreaming of conquest. We did not build these weapons, hoping to use them. But we learned something important in the past 72 hours. We learned that the galaxy does not respect kindness. The galaxy does not reward patience. The galaxy only understands strength. He stood straight, his uniform crisp, his eyes tired but unbowed. So here is our strength. Use it as a warning or as an invitation. The choice is yours. Admiral Webb out. The transmission ended. Across the galaxy, Governments began to collapse. Species that had served the Council for millennia suddenly found themselves without leadership. Some fell into chaos. Some began reaching out to humanity, desperate for protection. Some started preparing for war. Captain Sarah Chen received orders to return home. The battle was over, but the work was just beginning. Humanity would need to rebuild. They would need to establish new relationships with the species that wanted peace. They would need to stay vigilant against those who wanted revenge. As the retribution jumped into hyperspace, Sarah finally allowed herself to feel something. She thought about the people of Kepler 442b. She thought about Maria Santos and her students. She thought about all the innocent lives that had been lost because the galaxy thought humanity was weak. "They're not forgotten," she whispered to no one. "None of them are forgotten." 6 months later, Sarah stood in a memorial garden on Earth. It was built on the exact coordinates of her childhood home in Beijing. A place she had loved before the stars called her away. The garden was filled with 2.3 million white flowers. One for each person who died on Kepler 442b. Admiral Webb stood beside her, looking older than his years. The past months had been hard on both of them. Building a new galactic order was exhausting work. Some species had joined humanity willingly. Some had required convincing. Some had tried to fight and learned the same lesson the Council had learned. "Do you regret it?" Webb asked quietly. "What we did?" Sarah considered the question. She had asked herself the same thing every day since the battle. Every night. She dreamed of the light from the conscience weapon, spreading across the stars. Every morning, she wondered if there had been another way. "I regret that it was necessary," she finally said. "I wish the Council had been reasonable. I wish they had seen us as equals instead of threats. I wish they hadn't forced us to become what we became." She looked at the flowers swaying gently in the breeze. "But I don't regret protecting our people. I don't regret making sure what happened here can never happen again. And I don't regret showing the galaxy that humanity will not be erased without a fight." Webb nodded slowly. "The historians will debate what we did for centuries. Some will call us heroes. Some will call us monsters. Some will say we saved humanity. Exide, I will say we saved humanity. Some will say we became exactly what we were fighting against." Sarah shrugged. "Let them debate. Let them argue. Let them write their books and draw their conclusions. Our species has a future because of it. That's enough for me." She turned to leave, then paused. "There's one thing the historians will never understand, though. One thing that no alien species will ever truly grasp." "What's that?" Webb asked. Sarah smiled sadly. "We didn't win because we were stronger. We didn't win because we were smarter, or more advanced, or better prepared. We won because we were human. Because when everything is taken from us, when our backs are against the wall, when our children are threatened, we become something terrifying, something unstoppable, something that the universe itself cannot break." She looked up at the stars. "That's what it means to be human. And that's why the galaxy will never forget what happened here." She walked away, leaving Admiral Webb alone among the flowers. Above them, the night sky sparkled with 1,000 distant worlds. Worlds that now knew humanity's name. Worlds that would never again make the mistake of thinking humans were easy prey. The Galactic Council had wanted to erase humanity. Instead, they had awakened something far more powerful than they could have imagined. They had awakened humanity's true nature, and the galaxy would remember that forever.